part 2. You think I'd know by now to go ahead and make sure I have enough memory before recording, but no, sometimes we have to learn the hard way. In any case, what I was talking about was that erections that men have in the mornings are not oftentimes due to being aroused and sexually stimulated, that it can be as simple as them having a pee and or their testosterone levels being higher but not necessarily being horny. Though I don't know if I mentioned this, though, I like say, for example, one of my friends' husbands does masturbate every single morning, but he also isn't a very, oddly enough, he isn't a very sexual person. So I also think like engaging in intercourse very often with her or other people. So I think in certain ways that's his safety net in terms of expressing himself sexually and releasing any kind of sexual tension. And say, other people I know might just touch themselves for a little bit, but not to the point of orgasm. And many, as far as I know, just pee and they don't think anything of it in terms of, oh, now I'm turned on and now they need to have sex or masturbate or anything like that. And I just think it's interesting and awesome in terms of, again, our differences, because this didn't just come up in my class, but it's recently come up with one of my friends who's in his late 50s, and I forget how it initially started, and we have known each other 20 years. We speak very candidly and freely, and actually right now he has prostate cancer, and he's always loved masturbating, but this is something that he cherishes and values that much more because at some point, he will most likely not be able to get hard anymore, and that is really upsetting to him because he's so in tune with his sexuality. And so he had mentioned, I think waking up one day and being harder than he had been in a while because he had been sick and it had affected his ability to get hard. So he was happy about that, but again, it wasn't due to arousal for him in his case, and it more he was almost annoyed that it was so hard because it was somewhat painful for him, and he needed to wait a little while before he could even pee. So, and I was like, and again, he's in his late 50s, and I was like, do you wake up every day erect? And he said, every single day. I thought, wow, interesting. And of course, I'm not going to go around asking every guy, but those that I know who I've felt comfortable enough to go ahead and ask say, yep, pretty much it's an everyday thing. And most not masturbate, especially to the point of orgasming. And yeah, so for as much as people can think, guys do have a high sex drive, and they do, it's still it's different, and we all can learn and benefit from just knowing each other's, our similarities as well as our differences. And that's part of the point of me doing these videos, is to have this dialogue about things that people aren't aware of or aren't as aware of or aren't comfortable sharing with each other. And I'd like to get past any feelings of shame and guilt about whether it be masturbation or erections or getting wet or the inability to, and or say discomfort in stimulating yourself, let alone stimulating another, and be more open with ourselves and with another person. This is so vital. I feel like, especially in the United States, we're so behind in many ways with our basic comfort in sexuality, and I feel like it's really creating a lot of problems. I mean, actually, these acorns, like, this is part of the fruit of the tree, and it's a seed, just like the sperm. Like, actually, that's what my teacher had mentioned in class. That was one thing I did not know. So here's a little tidbit that if you didn't know, I didn't know that guys didn't start producing sperm until until they hit puberty. I thought that they still could or did, that they just didn't start, you know, getting hard. Or I actually, though, I have heard of kids becoming erect, and my teacher did touch on that it happens for different reasons, and I'd like to know more about that. And I'm pretty aware and educated and open, and yet I'm still learning. I don't know the details of when and how boys become erect and the difference between when they start producing sperm. Um, I do wonder, do they have wet dreams prior to? Do they orgasm prior to puberty? I always know, I assume that they had produced sperm their whole life, because they do for the rest of their life. Once they do start producing sperm, they can until they die. Whereas, say, with women, we're born with all the eggs that we have, and they slowly start to deteriorate. So by the time we hit menopause, and that's why it's more risky for women to have kids after they reach 35, 40 years old, because those same mature eggs aren't all, they've been impacted, by the environment, by just them getting older, kind of like a fruit that does start to, wither and get soggy and just not be as intact as, more ripe. There's a such thing, like our eggs become overripe, basically. But what I was going to say about this cycle, in terms of these seeds, and just like our seeds, our eggs and the sperm, which is so beautiful in terms of how they come together. And it is beautiful in terms of, especially not the in vitro, but in sex and sexuality and a healthy sexuality, how they come together and, go into the earth and are planted. And this acorn, this little acorn, becomes a huge oak tree. It all starts right in here. And how the sun is a spark. It's like love can be a huge spark. Love of self, love of life, love of the universe can light us up from the inside out as well as the outside in, if we let it. So I hope you do let some of this love in and also let it out. And I'd like to give a shout out to a man in Jordan who has made a point to let me know that my videos have been inspiring to him, and that these things, though I know, they are important, that they are touching, it's different, like touching people and touching their hearts and souls, because it's, I'm gonna make these things regardless. I just split my testicles apart, sorry. Anyway, it is, I'm always by myself. I rarely, aside, the few that I did with a friend of mine, it's just so nice to actually connect and know, to hear feedback from people who aren't my friends or family, or aren't the chipmunks and leaves out here in the woods, that it's somehow encouraging people that I don't even know halfway around the world, like you, my friend in Jordan. That's it's amazing, and it's really beautiful. And I'd like to just say thank you personally to you for connecting, because that's what a lot of, having the strength to be vulnerable and to love is about, connection. So, and thank you, whomever you are watching and listening, and maybe thinking about, let alone acting upon, the courage, the spark, the light, and the love within your own heart and soul to explore any or all of these things and more. So feel free to reach out to me personally on Facebook, Instagram, or via email, redtruediaries@gmail.com. Just, within your heart, in the silence of your own heart. It's one of my favorite things about being in this park. The sounds of nature and how quiet it is. I love you.